You'll notice when you arrive for worship that we are pre-screening people, that we're asking you to sign in so that we can have your contact information, that we're asking you to get a temperature check. The CDC guidelines just recommend that anybody with a temperature of 100 or more should not enter the building. We have a no-touch thermometer that will be used on Sunday morning to double check people's temperature. If you feel sick while you're at home, we really ask you, please sit this one out and stay home for now. We have hand sanitizer stations that will be at the doors. And again, if you're coming for in-person worship, you're coming in through the back door, through the parking lot door. We're doing that so that we can make sure everybody gets pre-screened at the same time and everybody gets the same procedures as they check in. We recommend that while you're in the building that you sanitize your hands frequently. If you can wash them, that's even better. But hand sanitizer is helpful along the way, especially if you notice yourself rubbing your eyes or if you sneeze or something. It's really, really important at that moment that you take some time to sanitize your hands. We have these little standing hand sanitizer stations that you'll see. They're bright blue. They're impossible to miss. You just tap lightly on the foot bar and it dispenses the hand sanitizer. You'll notice that we are trying to do everything we can to minimize contact with surfaces. Your contact with surfaces, our contact with surfaces. You may find more doors propped open or held open. There are certainly less cases of the virus getting spread through contact with items, with surfaces, but it doesn't mean that there is no risk. So there are cases where people have shared a common space and perhaps have touched the same thing or have touched the elevator button that had enough virus contained in that touch to then make the person sick. We're inviting you during these days to have communion at your seat, and we're inviting you to use the communion, the little prepackaged communion sets that are set on the seat of the service, of the chairs you'll sit on while you're in service. Those are also the same communion, pre-filled communion packets that we're using for drive-up communion when we have Day of the Month. At the end, you can throw away the used cup, and that is so that none of us have to touch it as well. And then the trash will be removed later at another time. The offering plate will be available by the door. It will not be passed through the aisles. And we don't want you to settle into the fellowship hall and have time for conversation there because, again, it means you're touching the tables, the chairs, all those kind of things. This is also one of the reasons we have the bathrooms mostly closed because there's too many things that people will touch and can touch, and we're trying to minimize that. So these are the little communion cups, the individually packaged communion. It's got the wafer in the very top there, and it's got the grape juice underneath there. So the best way and easiest way to describe, I don't know if you can see, but it's almost like there's a little purple tab right here. Don't pull it, don't peel it, just push it down. And after you push that down, you'll be able to see that there's actually two peels here. One is, let's see if we can get it close here. Can you see that there's one peel that's very clear? So that's the first one you do. When you peel the clear, it exposes the wafer. You can take the wafer in your hand, and then you're ready to peel the purple plastic, the one that you push down on that tab to start from. And that purple plastic, as you peel it, has the grape juice in it. And when it is time for communion, you will have one of these at your seat, and you can simply open it up after I do the invitation, and you'll open it up. Take the wafer. You can either take the wafer and drink the wine or drink the grape juice later, or you can open the second part up and do it one right after the other. And then you have this left. And this piece just goes into the trash. I'm not going to take it from you. I'm not going to ask you to give it to me because I want you to put it yourself in the trash. You're the one that's touched it, so I want to make sure that we aren't doing too much cross-touching things. So there will be a trash can in the sanctuary. There'll be a trash can on your way out the door as well, if you wanted to just toss it in the trash can. Thank you. Have a good day. Although I normally encourage human contact at United in Faith through touch, handshakes, hugs, all those kind of things, right now we have to avoid physical contact in every way we can. When you enter the worship space, we're going to ask you to keep social distance of 6 feet apart from people. The chairs are already seated in such a way that you'll notice that they are already 6 feet and have been measured to be 6 feet or more from each other. Before and after service, as you come in or as you leave, make sure you're greeting each other without physical touch and that you're staying at least 6 feet apart, especially when you're coming into the worship space or exiting the worship space. It's easy to sort of bunch up and push closer to people, but it's going to be important for us to remind ourselves that we are social distancing for the sake of our neighbor. Bathrooms should be considered closed at the church unless there's an emergency. And I only say that because we cannot guarantee how often those bathrooms are being cleaned. For the best practices, we should be cleaning those bathrooms in between each person that uses the bathroom. And that's a challenging task to put ahead of us. You may notice in some businesses where they have signs that say we're cleaning the bathrooms more often now, every 20 minutes or every 30 minutes. And we cannot guarantee at church that we're going to be able to do that. So we just want people to avoid using the bathrooms if they can help it. It's also the case that the actual structure of our bathrooms makes it very hard to social distance, and it's hard to even tell if there's somebody already in the bathroom when you come in, so you may end up sort of stuck in a small space with somebody that you're trying to stay 6 feet away from. So we're just asking you to consider those as not usable during our worship service especially. Communion will be taken at your seat, not at the altar. The sharing of the peace is the end of the service. This gives people the opportunity, if they want to speak to one another, again, at a social distance, they could. If they'd rather just wave and head out the door, they can do that. One of the most challenging parts for churches has been the need to pay attention to what singing does as far as spread of droplets and spread of aerosols that are in our lungs and we exhale when we breathe out or sing or yell or speak. There are some very highly publicized scientific studies that have been done showing that the virus particles are very small, and because they are very small, they actually can go outside of your mask. Especially when singing, you push out more aerosols in your breath than if you're speaking, or if you're humming, or if you're speaking quietly. And the other things that cause a lot of that is yelling, or cheering, or coughing or sneezing. Those are the kinds of things that can cause, again, and singing, can cause the virus to push even further outside your mask. Masks still are beneficial. They're still helpful. But they are not foolproof, and they do not stop everything. And so for the time being, we have decided that our in-person communion worship service will not have any singing. We still will have speaking, and we have some litanies, some responsive readings that are part of our service, especially during the season of creation in September 2020. If we have lectors or anybody else speaking from a microphone, we'll make sure that each person has their own microphone and sort of their own speaking space, because we want to make sure that people are not sort of sharing the airspace around them as much as possible. By minimizing movement in the sanctuary, we are limiting that shared airspace as well. While you are in the building, we expect you to wear a mask. We have purchased some disposable masks, and for now we actually have a very large quantity of donated cloth masks as well that will be available on a Sunday morning. If for some reason you come to church and you don't have a mask, do not fear. There are masks here. We can help you with those. We also encourage you the whole time you're in the building, especially when we have a larger quantity of people here for a longer time, we encourage you to keep your mask on that whole time you are in the building. For now, we are not serving any kind of food, no coffee, no drink, nothing. Part of that is because we don't want people touching the food, so there's a contact concern. But the other reason is that in order to drink your drink or eat your food, generally you take off your mask. And at this point, we do not want to risk that in our indoor worship space gathering. You will notice, though, that I encourage you to, if you are ready to take communion, to take your mask off while you take communion, and then you'll put your mask back on when you have finished taking communion. Just as you notice at press conferences, even the public health press conferences, the person speaking often has their mask off. Those not speaking at the time often put their mask then back on. I, as the worship leader, most Sundays, am going to try to get in a better habit of removing that when I'm speaking and putting it back on when I'm not speaking. And we are recommending that people do not hang around in the building, especially when we have a larger group of people here on a Sunday morning. At this point, our Sunday morning worship gatherings will probably be very small. They may be under 10 people, and that is fully acceptable. We want people to be able to feel safe and to feel comfortable when they come here, to know that we are doing everything we can to keep everybody safe. I remind you, what's next in worship, we very much do not know. We do not know what next month will bring, even. We do not know what to expect in the months ahead. We honestly don't know what the next church year season will look like. We don't know what Reformation Sunday will look like. We don't know what Advent or Christmas may look like. And all those things could unfold in the months ahead. I think if you think about this past 6 months as we face this together, each month, each week, sometimes each day has brought new information that helps us to make better decisions. New guidelines from public health officials, new guidelines from doctors that can help us to make further decisions that keep us all safe. It's possible that we keep this worship schedule for many more months. It's possible that it changes in just a couple of months. Flexibility and creativity and patience is the name of the game during this time of pandemic.